Now, the standard, how this concept works, I'll show you a small example on the next page, so just pay attention. Suppose you are the auditor and you are finalizing the balance sheet, okay? You're the auditor and you're finalizing the balance sheet. Let me tell you, as of now, unless I tell you something about any other auditor, I'm only talking about the statutory auditor. This is just an example. I will give you time to copy. First you understand properly. So basically the statements which are given to you, I'm talking about the financial statements. You are the statutory auditor of those financial statements. Now what you have to understand here, that when you start doing audits for your clients, many a times the clients, the law changes. First of all, the presentation of the financial statement may change. Presentation changes. Presentation of what? Presentation of financial statement changes. This standard is slightly complicated to understand, so I want proper attention. So the financial statements which are given to the statutory auditor, the presentation changes. Now why do presentation change? Sometimes because of the change in law. So if law change, the presentation will change. Recently we had this concept of new schedule 6 coming in. Okay, new schedule 6, revised schedule 6. So we all know, so that means the standard is also equally important because of the revision in schedule 6. Sometimes the client by himself wants to show the financial statement, or maybe not the financial statements, the groupings of those financial statements. So sometimes client changes something. Say for example, client changes the groupings. Now what do you mean by groupings? Okay, no one tells you in your articleship all these points, grouping, what is grouping, etc. See how the concept works here. Suppose if this is the balance sheet, okay, suppose if this is the balance sheet in the vertical format, you have the previous year in the balance sheet and you have the current year. Now when I'm the auditor and when I'm checking, say for example, fixed assets in the previous year were 40, so all rupees are in crores. Fixed assets were 40, here it became 140. So if I have little bit analytical skills, I will say that management has made additions in the fixed assets. Management would have made additions in the fixed assets now, because of which it has become 140. So when I was comparing these two figures, like previous year and current year, look here carefully. What are corresponding figures? The title of this standard is Comparative Information and Corresponding Information. What are corresponding figures? This comprise of prior period information. That means I am talking about this 40. Okay, I am talking about this 40. Okay. Example, if we are conducting audit for the year 11-12, the corresponding figure will be 10-11. That means suppose if I am the auditor for this current year, then for me this is the corresponding figure. Okay, for me this is the corresponding figure. First we have to understand what's the difference between comparative figure and corresponding figure. Once I understand the difference between the two, then I will tell you what is the procedure to be followed. Then the procedure is absolutely simple. But people spend time in first understanding the difference between corresponding figures and comparative figures. So if I am saying that when I am talking about this 140, which I wrote here, 140, tell me out of this 140, can I say this 40 will be also an important part? This 40 is the last year 40, and this year addition that I made was 100. So can I say that the previous year figure are also an integral part of the financial statement? This previous year, what do you mean by integral part? It's an important part of the financial statement of the current year. See, as an auditor, my job, when I'm the statutory auditor of the company, my job is to express opinion on this figure, the current year figure. I have to give opinion on this current year figure. But what is the reliability of the previous year figure? That means this standard teaches us that I have to see how much reliable these previous year figures are. And since I am comparing only 2 years, this previous year figure, which is reliable or not, is called as the corresponding figure. Okay, we will use the term corresponding figure. So this previous year figure is the corresponding figure. So when I am the auditor and if I am expressing opinion, my job is to express opinion only on the current year figure. But while checking the current year figure, I cannot ignore the reliability of the previous year figure. Suppose I was not the auditor last year, How would I come to know whether this 40 is a reliable 40 or not? Okay, somebody else audited this 40. So what will I do? I will go and I will try to obtain the previous year financial statement. I have taught you this in initial engagements also, if you remember. You remember 510 initial engagements? There I told you that when you are checking the transaction, you must make sure that the closing balance of last year is correctly brought forward as opening balance in the current year. That means it is more or less similar to that only. But here the objective is slightly different. I have to not only check the reliability of this information, I have to confirm that this information is valid or not, for which the standard teaches me or standard tells me that I have to obtain WR from the management. What is this WR? Additional audit evidence. I have to obtain written representation from the management. So corresponding information, what is this corresponding? Now you read it. They will ask you a distinction between what are corresponding information, what is comparative information. So corresponding information comprises of prior period information. Even comparative will comprise of prior period information only. See, when I come to comparative, I will read the same point for you. But the difference will be that when I am talking about corresponding information, I am just talking about these 2 years figures, out of which my job is to express opinion on this figure. But while expressing opinion on this figure, I have to ascertain the reliability of the previous year figure. Okay, that is corresponding information. Have you understood this point? Okay, now what do you mean by the comparative information? What do you mean by the comparative information? A small example once again. Now suppose this is 2009, this is 2010, suppose this is 2010, this is 2011. I am the auditor for this year. Okay, this is the year under audit. Okay, this is the audit. But now when I am doing audit for this period, if I check information of these two, I can say that these two figures are corresponding figures. Okay, as of now we have understood this one. But suppose the standard also tells you go one step ahead, check 3-4 years figures. You remember I had taught you something called as cutoff procedure. In cutoff procedure, I told you that it is possible that the previous year figure can fall in this year also, which is actually not correct. It should be in the previous year only. That means what? There has to be a cutoff somewhere. So you should check 15 days before transaction, 15 days after transaction. Similarly, I am telling you that when you are checking audit for this year, if you are doing audit for this year, I should also do audit for the corresponding year. Corresponding year means 2010. When I am doing audit for 2010, I will also make sure that some period like 2009, 2008, I should also try to check. Why I'm checking all this thing? Because I just want to make sure that these 3 years or these 4 years, I can take one more year also, these 4 years, the consistency is maintained. Now when I say that the consistency is maintained, what it implies that the management should follow the same accounting policies. The management should follow same accounting policies year after year. Or if there are changes, suppose some year management was following SLM method of depreciation. Let me give you an example here. SLM method of depreciation. Here it followed WDV method of depreciation. Here it followed WDV method of depreciation. Again it switched over to SLM method in my year of audit, in this year of audit. Then I have to ask the management, first of all, why do you change your accounting policies so frequently? Give me a reason for that. Because as per accounting standard 1, you have to maintain consistency. You have to maintain consistency in accounting policy. So if you are not maintaining consistency, just in 2 years again you are changing your accounting policy, please give me a reason for the same. And you have to not only ask the management to give reason, you should also see to it that such reasons are disclosed properly or not. See, if management can convince you, if management can justify you, there is no harm in changing accounting policies, but the frequent changes are not invitable at all. There should not be frequent changes in accounting policies, because when you change your accounting policies, you have to recalculate so many things once again, and it's a very tedious job. Tell me, the AS6, if you have little bit knowledge about AS6, I will tell you, AS6 tells us that we have to give a retrospective effect when we change the accounting policy. So it's not advisable that every year or every 2 years you should change your method of charging depreciation. Are you getting this point? That means when I'm saying that when I was comparing WDV to SLM, okay, with this year, then I'm not checking corresponding figures. Now I'm checking which figures, comparative figures. So what's the difference between comparative information and corresponding information? Read this point. Now you read this point. Corresponding figures in financial statement. This comprise of prior period information as I read here, so no difference. If we are conducting audit for the year 11-12, the comparative information financial statement related to the year 9-10, 10-11 will be called as what? Comparative information. So if it's only 1 year comparison, then it is corresponding. But if it is more than 1 year comparison, then it is See, when I say now, it is possible that when you're giving opinion on this year financial statement, these 2 years are only relevant for you. So it is possible that these two figures will not even form an integral part of the financial statement of 2011. Are you getting this point? So what is the integral part? This 40 will be an integral part here in 140, but it is highly probable, or it is highly likely, that these 2 years will not be forming an integral part of your financial statement. So I have written here precisely that when I am talking about comparative information, this is not an integral part of the financial statement. Why is that so? Because here multiple number of years are involved, but as a prudent auditor, as a cautious auditor, you must always make sure that, sir, suppose somebody asked me a question, sir, suppose this year was audited by a different auditor, thereafter I am auditing this information every year, okay, I am auditing and I know my client very well. That means I have done a proper KYC of my client. If I know my client very well, tell me, then there is no need to apply this standard also. Are you understanding this point? So this corresponding and comparative information standard should be only applied when you newly joined the company and when you feel that there is some element of doubt, not in the current year figure. Why? Because current year figures are being audited by you only. So you need not worry about the current year figure. You should more worry about the adequacy or the reliability of information of the corresponding figures and the comparative figures. Have you understood this point? So what is comparative information? Comparative information comprises of prior period information which is relevant to the financial statements. So the broader word is comparative information, but then what I have done, I have just tried to segregate that out of comparative information, how much is comparative and how much is corresponding. So 2 year information, 1, 2 is corresponding, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is comparative information. This standard can also help you in doing analytical review procedure. If you remember, what is analytical review? You have to analyze the ratios and trends of various financial years. That means when I'm analyzing the ratios of various financial years, I would be doing which type of information checking? The comparative figures information. Have you understood this point? But then the standard does not get over. There's a small point extra also. I've already explained you all that point. Nobody will copy. You have to understand first. I will give you time to copy. So what should an auditor do? He should check whether comparative information agrees with the amounts and disclosures in the period. As I told you that if you're charging WDV method, then it has to be consistent. If you're having that 40, then it has to be 140. So 140 should have a reason of that 40 also, whether it is correct or not. And what is the best thing you should do? If you want to confirm that the client is giving you a reason, valid reason or not, just ask the client to give me a written representation. This is a tool which can safeguard you at any place, written representation. I think I already told you all that written representation only serves as an additional audit evidence. Very good. So written representation only serves as what? An additional audit evidence. So to safeguard yourself, you should try to obtain written representation from the management. So whether it is correct in terms of amount and disclosures. Sometimes practically I will tell you how it works. If you're doing auditing, sometimes if they show 140, then they will show 139 there. That accounts have to be splitted up. When accounts split up year after year, some entries are not cashed in the next year, or some entries are not brought forward in the next year because of the inadequacy of the software. If you have heard about this software called as Tally. Yeah, so in the Tally software, what happens? Every year there is a function that you have to split the accounts. So if the software is not technically upgraded, or if it is sometimes technically suffering from some problem, then some of the entries are not carried forward. So you will see 139. Now what you will do, as an auditor, you will more concentrate on this 100, because you know that this is the current year transaction. So 1 or 2 entries, if they are missing here, then this figure will not give a true and fair view. That is why we have to make sure that when it is 40 year, is the whole 40 carried forward in the next year or not. So because of this whole 40 coming in the next year, your job will become easier. Okay, check whether accounting policies are consistently followed in the current period. See, I told you that if there is a change in accounting policy, first of all, it has to be a consistent accounting policy, and if there is a change, you should ask the management the reason why you are changing such accounting policy, and have you disclosed this reason or not in the notes to accounts. That also is a job of the auditor. And if there is any change in accounting policy, it should be disclosed in notes to accounts. I was talking about something called as grouping, so I will just write here, in case of any change in grouping, you have to make sure that consistency is maintained now. Okay, consistency is maintained in the grouping also. So this is about all you have to write in this standard. So Auditors' procedures are very simple here, but people fail to understand what's the difference between the comparative information and corresponding information. You won't believe it. I had to read 2-3 books to give you this example, because the standard is actually picked up from an American auditing textbook, okay? And in America, when they write the standard, they just blankly write the standard without giving any example. So to give you this example, I have to first read about, what is cash flow statement, what is comparative information, etc. अरे इतना efforts लिया, कुछ ताली वाली तो बजाओ कम से कम. So have you, tell me one thing, have you followed this point? Have you followed this point? Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. बस अरे बस हो गया यार. Listen. Okay. So have you understood this example? What is your job? If you have written this much, you tell me. Have you finished copying this much? Okay, now you take your time to copy this example. Okay, then the small part is there that I'll dictate, or you can copy later. Copy properly so that you understand. Okay. So if you are the statutory auditor, you must know what are groupings. Groupings are after the schedules. When you make a schedule, after that you make a grouping. So from grouping you make schedule, and from schedule you make balance sheet. Take your time, copy comfortably, but just understand things. आराम से. This example is only for your understanding. You will not write this example in exam, because whatever is there in example I have written in the other side of the page. This is only for your understanding. So our concentration on this standard is not on this year, which is the current year. Our concentration is on the previous year. Please concentrate on copying. Don't talk. Okay, done? Arey, please have some badam and drink some milk and come. You don't have energy only to copy. You should drink from home, not in break. What you saying? Bal means milk. Bal. Bal. I only know Tanni. Tanni means water. Bal. B. Pals. Pal. Oh my god. Pal means friend. In English we say pal means friend. Pal. Okay. So drink pal and come. Okay. Now you copy this. Arey, drink pal and write fast. Who's pal? What he did? He drinks pal. His name is Pal. My Pal. Arey, have you finished copying? What pal you're doing? Next point. Still copying first line. Lack of pal. Today I'll make you write a lot. You see now. That is your mistake. Go to Nepal then. That is your mistake. Why you don't drink pal? Arey, have you finished copying? Just copy once, please. So in this standard, these 2 points you should not forget, written representation and compliance with SA 510. Many people, they don't remember all the points, but some important points I am telling. These 2 points, very important. When you check 510, automatically all these provisions which I have written on top get covered. But we just have to write it more precisely. So what is the difference between the corresponding and comparative information? Corresponding information is only for 2 years. Okay, so which year we are checking, that is a year under audit. So we have to express opinion on the current year. But while checking that, we also have to make sure that the previous year information is adequate or not, it's reliable or not. Okay, and about comparative information, we have to check information about more than 2-3 years. Okay, I hope you have finished copying now. Can we start with the next one? Okay, now I think how many are remaining? How many standards are remaining? 5 more are remaining. Yesterday, how many we could do? Which one? 705, 706, 501, 560, and this was going on. So this, I think 5 more are remaining now.